So I'm sure you heard by now that Jeffrey Goldberg, who is the editor-in-chief of The Atlantic, was accidentally invited into a text chain on Signal, which is a messaging app that's much more secure than a lot of the other platforms available. It's open sourced, encrypted messaging, and a lot of journalists use it for more secure texting between their sources, each other, etc. He basically read the entire planning, not just with the cabinet secretaries, but with the intelligence people in the Middle East, to the military people who essentially pushed the button to launch the bombs, the whole thing. Now, him being a responsible reporter, thankfully this time, he did not publish the entire thing. He basically gave the whole gist, and he actually thought it was fake, like a disinformation campaign. He didn't think the people that were represented in that text chain um, were the actual people. So he just kind of said, let's just have this play out, see what happens. And so he waited on Twitter for the day and time that it was scheduled or said to be scheduled within the text chain for it to happen. And then it did, and then he realized, oh Lord, this is genuine. And he verified with the sources and all that. I really recommend, and I'll link it in the description. Sarah Longwell and JVL from Bulwark give a really good breakdown of just why, you know, just in the intelligence part of government, and why this is so egregious. Um, I wanted to talk about a slightly different element to it. Really just how government information's treated. And I promise this won't be boring, just bear with me. This has a point. So many of you know that I'm a librarian at a university, and one of my areas of subject specialties is government information. So we are in an FDLP library in Georgia. A lot of university libraries are, a lot of public libraries are. And so what is an It is a division of the Government Publishing Office, and basically, this was really important before the internet, and it was a way for the government to disseminate information to libraries because those were central hubs for a lot of communities, particularly in rural areas that don't necessarily have access to, for the time, other ways of obtaining information. I'm a millennial, older zennial. 43 years old. So if you're my age or older, you probably remember going to the library and your parents picking up tax forms or tax information. That's all part of the FDLP program. Um, a lot of public libraries will have census information, public health information, all sorts of things. And depending on the size of your library, the type of library you are, where you are in the country or within the state will depend on what you ask the GPO to send you. No library is getting, well, most libraries are not being sent everything that the government publishes. There's regional libraries that collect pretty much everything, um, but a library our size, which is a medium-sized public university, it's probably more on the smaller size of medium, but we've never been collecting everything. We have select departments, and uh, with, like Department of Agriculture, we would collect certain very specific areas of that part. So anyway, I'm not here to educate you on all the intricacies. This has a point, remember. So um, with the invention of the internet and it becoming widespread, more and more libraries, FDLP libraries, are becoming online only, meaning that we're not going to be sent the physical copies of government documents. And a government document can literally be anything that the government publishes. It could be a pamphlet that is produced by the CDC. It could be a giant book on from NASA about rock formations on the moon. It could be anything that the government publishes. That doesn't mean that it's being sent to every single library. That's just examples of what could be sent. So, with libraries becoming online only, what do you do with the physical books that become outdated? Because, a lot of public health information you don't need anymore, or it's obsolete. New discoveries get made or information changes, or you know what, your library just doesn't need that anymore. Um, so what do you do? Like you can't, and because it's sent by the government, it's paid for by tax dollar, um, public tax dollars. So you can't just throw it away. And so to get rid of, so let's make up a title, Soil Samples of Georgia from 1975. That's not an actual title, but I've had to discard similar like type of title, if you will. So we want to get rid of Soil Samples of Georgia from 1975. So we can't just like throw it away. We can't just put it in the Friends of the Library book sale for like 50 cents, hoping somebody might want to buy it. It's a process. And depending on how, like, what type of government document it is, will depend on quite how long the process is to get rid of it. So it first starts on going on our, we pull it off of our stacks and we do take it out of the catalog, but we also put it on a discard list. And that discard list, we get a bunch of them and then we say, hey, UGA in our case, do you want this? And UGA will sometimes say, yeah, you know what, send it over to us, we'll take it. Or they'll say, no, go ahead, offer it up to everybody else. So it gets offered up to all the FDLP libraries in Georgia, and then it expands into the country. So depending on if Soil Samples of Georgia is a particular type of government document, it can then end up on the 5-year shelf. And that's exactly what it sounds like. We have to leave it on the shelf for 5 years. There's a lot of different reasons why you would leave it on the shelf for 5 years, but that's just regulation. We got to follow the regulations of discarding, publicly funded information that's like tangible. And then once the 5 years is up, then we can most likely recycle it. You also, libraries also cannot profit off of publicly funded materials. So when we buy a book and what we have too many, of a popular title, oh, we bought 3 copies, we only need 1 now. Let's get rid of the 2. Some public libraries will put it in a Friends of the Library book sale to sell it for $1 or something, and it goes into the thing. And and you could say, well, isn't a public library, wasn't that book in the book sale like, it's different when it's the public money is from the federal government anyway. And even then, some, depending on what the policies and regulations are within local public libraries, you may not be able to have a Friends of the Library book sale, and that's just the way it is. But that, I was just saying that often happens. Anyway, so Soil Samples of Georgia from 1975 is literally getting more care of how it's discarded than active battle plans of bombing Yemen in a current administration on even though it's encrypted and secure, it's not secure enough for that kind of information. Remember Hillary's emails? Okay, do you remember how many, I think it's like thousands of hours that went into investigating her email server? Okay, but like, what? And then the Trump administration has a crazy reaction trying to blame him, Jeffrey Goldberg, that he's the one in the wrong for, you're lucky it was him, because he's only reporting on things from that text strand that is already public information. It's already been reported on. He could have really endangered lives of Americans and probably other countries that were working. I don't think we can just bomb somebody like that without other countries working with. I don't know how that works, but you know, and what's really going on is they're trying to subvert the Presidential Records Act and a lot of the federal laws related to presidential and government information, like Freedom of Information Act type things. They didn't want the record to be there, which that in itself is a crime, but Yeah, soil samples of Georgia from 1975 gets better care in its handling than battle plans for bombing Yemen. So anyway, if you have any questions, feel free to comment and like, share, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Okay, bye.